for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Planning Commission members, I'm looking for a motion regarding the tonight's agenda.
I so move that we accept the agenda as printed.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion regarding the Planning Commission meeting minutes from May 25th, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes from May 25th.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
I'm going to abstain.
And that's why I had a question about you making the motion.
No, I just seconded.
Okay? All right. So now we have the Planning Commission meeting minutes from June 8th, please. Do I have a motion?
Commissioner Young?
Yeah.
Can I ask who else abstained? Commissioner Kubal and Commissioner Miller, thank you.
Regarding the Planning Commission meeting minutes from June 8th, 2022, do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Agenda item number 7, 21210 Fondant Avenue North. There is a variance request for reduced setbacks and a variance request for increased lot coverages. Nathan, or Fanny, you're our reporter this evening?
Yes, thank you. So I'll briefly go through my report and then I can take any questions at the end. Staff received 2 variance requests to the property located at 21210 Fondant Avenue North, located in the single-family zoning district. The action requested is to review the request for a variance to the single-family zoning district and a variance request to the Shoreland Overlay District and approve or deny the requests. The applicants are are requesting a variance of 18.2 feet for a front yard setback of 11.8 feet and a variance of 12.1% above the impervious surface maximum for a total impervious surface coverage of 37.1%. The applicants have resided at that property since 2014, and according to the applicant, the variance requests are being made due to the following reasons detailed in the staff report. I'll briefly go over them. The first reason is access to the second floor is only achieved via a stairwell that sits between the master bedroom and the main level bathroom. So the only way to go upstairs means a person has to go through the bedroom or the bathroom. The main goal of the addition is to allow access to the stairwell from a main living area. The second reason is the property does not have a garage. The lot is relatively small and with limited options for structure placement. Since a garage is not feasible, a small addition to the house could allow for additional needed storage space. The third reason identified by the applicant is the current entryway is relatively small and along an open stairwell to the basement. This can present a hazard, especially with young children. The addition will allow for a bigger entryway that will help mitigate this risk. The work proposed by the applicants would include the following. The master bedroom would be moved to the front of the house. The current front bedroom would be converted to a larger and safer entryway. And an additional bedroom and bathroom would be added to the second level. And fourth, they would like to expand their storage space. I'm going to move to the review. The lot is currently legal non-conforming by having a front yard setback of 18.8 feet and an impervious surface coverage of 35%. Those are the existing conditions. The applicants are proposing to extend the structure 7 feet towards Fondant Avenue North and increase their impervious surface coverage by 2.1%. The rear of the structure is approximately 50 feet from the ordinary high water level of Clear Lake, which restricts any development towards the lake. The side yard setbacks and the height requirements are met with the proposed conditions. In my staff report, I have a table, just kind of briefly describing existing and proposed conditions. I'm going to move to the findings of fact. A, the applicant has identified the physical shape and location of the parcel as creating a practical difficulty to comply with the front yard setback and impervious surface maximum for the lot. Due to the current structure not meeting the front yard setbacks, having the minimum required shoreland overlay setback and exceeding permitted impervious surface, any expansion of the structure would not be permitted under the zoning code. B, the applicants have expanded the number of occupants of the single-family home to a family of 4 residents. Expanding and reconfiguring the layout will allow use by a family and is a reasonable request. The variance requests are apart from economic considerations. The structure was legal nonconforming at the date of the applicant's acquisition of the property, and the applicant ensures that the nonconformities of impervious surface and setback have not been expanded since they acquired the property. The proposed plan is not expected to adversely impact the surrounding community, nor will the character be altered. As proposed, the site plan and land uses are not expected to create or enhance any detrimental impacts on adjacent properties. Grading and drainage will be reviewed and addressed as part of the normal building permit process. Comments from our city engineer included: site plans shall show all underground private utilities so review can be completed. At the time of the writing of this report, we did not receive any comments from our public works director, but we did receive comments from Excel because there is an Excel power line near the property. So compliance with Excel comments shall be met as a condition of approval. DNR comments. At the time of this writing, staff has not received any comments from the DNR. And Rice Creek watershed comments were included. This work will not require a permit from the Rice Creek watershed. Moving to staff recommendation for the front yard setback. If it is satisfied with the conformance of this request to city code, the Planning Commission should consider the following motion. Move to approve the applicant's request for a variance of 18.2 feet to the front yard setback for a total front yard setback of 11.8 feet with conditions 1 through 3 identified by staff. Furthermore, the recommendation in regard to impervious surface coverage is, if it is satisfied with the conformance of this request to city code, the Planning Commission should consider the following motion. Motion to approve the applicant's request for a variance of 12.1% above the impervious surface maximum for a total impervious surface area of 37.1% with conditions 1 through 3 identified by staff. In the staff report, there are 3 conditions, but only 2 numbers. But under the recommended conditions of approval, those are 3 conditions, just a bit of a formatting issue there. So the recommended conditions of approval include: any required permits shall be received prior to beginning construction on site. The second condition: the project must conform to plans reviewed and approved at the June 22nd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. And third, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicants must satisfy comments of the city engineer, public works director, and Excel related to redevelopment of the site. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time, and the applicants are here as well if you have questions for them. Thank you.
I want to clarify something at the very beginning. Very, very rarely do we approve something that will make a lot more non-conforming, and very, very, very seldom do we approve a variance that would increase an already out-of-compliance impervious area. Those are the 2 requests that are being made tonight.
Correct.
Planning Commission members, do you have any questions of staff?
And you guys might not be able to answer this question, but to me, it looks like they're going to be going to an 11-foot driveway. Is that kind of what it's sounding like? Because they don't have a garage, and it sounds like they're moving something out to make a bigger entryway. So then the parking for cars is 11 feet. So as you're backing your car out, is it one car length or two wide right now? Do we know?
The photograph shows, I think. If you
Okay,
page
so
page
it's
forward,
two?
if you scroll forward past the two plan views, there's a photograph with two vehicles in the driveway there.
Okay, and then is that street happen to be not, I don't want to say a busy street, but backing out of a very short driveway like that can be difficult to make?
Again, I think there's a map in here, but there's 4 lots on either side of the road past them, and it comes to a dead end.
Comes to a dead end?
Yeah, I drove down there last night just to look myself.
Okay.
And how wide the road was. I had similar questions about parking.
And sometimes it's notorious in dead ends because the people who live there think nobody's coming. They speed even faster, not slower. So I don't know if that's a positive in just because it's a dead end. But anyway, those are my concerns.
Okay, and what I'm looking for now is any questions of staff?
Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, do we have any of the floor plans or the elevations? Have they been submitted to us? I see we have the survey, and I see the dimensions, but do we have any floor plans or elevations at this point?
The elevations at this time have not been submitted, so they would have to conform with the like setbacks and impervious.
Okay.
To your question, I also went to go visit the property. I stayed there for maybe half an hour. Wasn't a lot of traffic activity, and traffic seemed relatively slow. That's during the time I was there. I can't speak to other times.
Commissioner Young, I have a
Yes.
question for staff. I'm new to the planning commission, as you know, this is my 3rd meeting, I think, so impervious surface, as we define it. I see pavers on here, and pavers to me are not impervious. I mean, water goes down through. I'm just curious why that's, I noticed in your spreadsheet, they come up as impervious surface.
Because they're butted together, they are.
Is that why they,
I can take this.
What was that,
I can
Susan?
take, can I attempt
Yeah,
to answer
please,
this question? Yeah, so impervious surface does include, with staff's understanding, pavers. The reason for that, especially in residential contexts, is because paver systems, to actually allow water to permeate through them, require maintenance over time. Very often it's the case in residential properties specifically, but not limited to those properties, that maintenance doesn't occur always. And so then over time, those pavers do become impervious.
I guess I have one other question for staff. I know when we review these planned unit developments and things like that, we get into a lot of talk about parking. And I noticed there was no discussion at all here about parking. And when I see the new plan view, are there requirements? I mean, does the city require that there be space for 2 vehicles or 1 vehicle? Or is there any type of minimum required by city?
There is a parking requirement on residential properties that is 1 covered stall and 1 uncovered stall for residential single-family homes. This property is unique in the sense that it is legal non-conforming. It was constructed before that requirement was in effect, and so they do not have a covered stall on this property. So staff do believe that there's enough area on this property to accommodate the parking of 2 vehicles.
Okay. I guess just wanted to make sure we weren't violating, or they needed a variance for that as well, so, okay.
A fair question, yep.
The applicant is here. Is there anything that you would like to say before we open the public hearing?
Just wanted to say thank you for your time, and we're surrounded by all our neighbors, which is pretty great. So Andrea and myself.
Sir, could you come up to the podium, please? Name and address. Thank you.
So yeah, like I was saying, we're surrounded by all our neighbors, literally the neighbors next to us, next to them, and across the road from us. So in terms of traffic down our road, it's us. This is it.
And you are at the 2120 210 Fondant.
Correct.
That is your address?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, do you have any questions of the applicants?
A couple. Do you guys have a elevation, an architectural plan for your construction that you could get to us?
So yes, the roof line is gonna stay in line with how it currently is. So that will not change. It will just extend toward the road.
So your plan is to put a addition on the front of the house, the same width and height that you currently have, and pull that forward? And then I see in the picture right now, there's a covered entryway. Is that staying there? Is that coming out as part of your addition?
The proposed like covered deck area would be part of the
So
addition.
you'd be pulling it out, the amount of feet that you want to pull it out, plus that covered deck area, and then from that point
No.
is where the 11 feet's going to be, or that covered door entryway is going to be eliminated?
I guess, so it's gonna be 11.8 feet back from the road, like the front of the house slash deck area
Okay.
slash
Okay.
everything. Nothing's getting closer than
Okay,
that.
okay. And currently, the back of the house, is that a patio or is that a deck off the back of the house?
Off the house itself on the main level is a deck. The
Is it
lower level is a patio.
Is that closer than the 50 feet setback? Or is that 50-foot setback to the house, and then the deck is encroaching on that 50-foot setback?
I believe the 50-foot setback is actually the end of the deck, like,
It's actually on the patio, it's on the plan, if you look.
I see it on there, but I just was wondering if that is into our setback or not. I can't see on there if it's in.
Additional
They drew- they drew
nonconformity.
The 50 feet.
It's
and mentioned it.
non-conforming. Okay.
I believe the back is conforming. That's more than 50 feet away from the,
From the patio to
From the house or-
Commissioner,
the deck's
I'm sorry.
further away.
I apologies to interrupt. The setback is shown here on the screen in front of you.
Oh,
There is a 50-foot setback from the ordinary high water line shown on this survey.
To the deck, okay, I can
It's
see it.
provided approximately on this like,
Sorry,
black.
our things are really small.
that's all right.
And then,
Yeah.
my question is, do you have any interior photos? You make a couple comments about, you know, things are hazardous and stairways and stuff, and I know you didn't acquire this property that long ago. Do you still have any of the online photos that we could see to kind of
Yeah.
see those stairways and see what the hazard is?
In fact, well, we could definitely take some. The other thing is I know if you just go on Zillow and type in our address, the original listing is there, and you'd be able to see that through there. But I'd be happy to take pictures as well.
Is that something we can pull up, Nathan? or
Yeah, you'll
not?
have to give me a moment. I'm gonna
Okay.
unplug here.
Okay, I'd like to see kind of those stairways that they're indicating and talking about, where the issue may be. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect, thank you.
I have one additional question of staff before I open the public hearing. On the back patio that is next to the lake, is that paved area part of the impervious surface calculation?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I would like to open the public hearing. It is 7:20. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this application from the public? And Karen, while we're looking at that, if you could see if there's anyone online, please.
There's no one.
Hi, my name is Doug Ramseth. I live at 21220 Fondant, right next door to the property being considered. There isn't very much traffic on this road at all. It's basically the people here and the mailman. So it's not a heavily traveled road at all. There are little children here, so everybody's very careful about driving on the road, keeping an eye out for the kids. Mike and Andrea are an asset to our community, and I'm concerned that if this isn't approved, that they may need to find another place to live, and that would be a loss to Forest Lake. He's a pediatric physician's assistant, and she's a great mom at home, and we'd certainly like to be able to keep them in the neighborhood. So if you can find it to approve, I think everybody, all of the neighbors would be very happy with that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Anyone else?
I'm also one of the neighbors of Mike and Andrea, and
Name and address, please?
I'm on 21230 Fawnin Avenue North, so I'd be just to the north of them,
And
that adjacent.
You are?
Millen Verant is my name.
Thank you.
And I had the pleasure of coming to one of these meetings about, it was in 2017, and I also was in, requesting a variance at that time, and we also built closer to the road, and we were in a similar situation. We were expanding to our family, and we had the luxury of getting our variance approved, and I've been extremely happy with the neighborhood and living there. And, you know, so that was really nice in the fact that, you know, along that whole stretch of that road, if you were to drive up and down it, very little traffic. The other thing, almost all those lots are cabin properties. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of people requesting these type of variances. It's only going to add value to the community, the property, and bring in, you know, high quality people like our neighbors to the community of Forest Lake, which will have kids in the school district. Mike's a pediatrician, which is an awesome asset to our neighborhood as well. I have small children. It's a great opportunity to be like, my kid's got a cold. Mike, what's going on? Can you help me? So just a great person to have in our community, not alone just our neighborhood, but the community in general. And so I've sat in a few of these meetings. So I've had a variance approved. My neighbor to the north of me also had a variance approved and built a very nice house next to us. And so I would imagine there's some, you know, consistency that from the Planning Commission in terms of, you know, mine's been approved, our neighbor's been approved. You know, it'd be really nice to see that generosity granted to the neighbor right next to us as well. And so for what it's worth, I mean, they're asking for literally from your stand there to not even to the table in terms of what they're asking for to come towards the road. When I went through this process, we had a civil engineer actually come out and assess the sewer lines, the depth of the sewer, what the impact would be to the city infrastructure, and everything came back in compliance to no issues being seen for the foreseeable future. And this engineer is a very high caliber person that's actually sits in a ton of legal hearings for large skyscraper buildings or any type of infrastructure failure. And so for what it's worth, what they're asking for, it might be within non-conforming rules of what's already been established, but you know, on Clear Lake, if you drive around it, the properties there are very small. And so all they're asking to do is improve the property, and also they're great neighbors, so improve the community. So for what it's worth, I ask that you guys please approve their variance. So thank you, appreciate your time.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Anyone else that wishes to speak? Anyone online, Karen?
Commissioner Young, I have someone I have someone online named Scotty. So Scotty, if you can hear me and you want to speak about this item, you can unmute yourself and speak at this time. Scotty? So he's not unmuting himself, so I'm assuming he doesn't want to speak during.
Okay, all right. Last call. Anyone else that wishes to speak?
Hi, Jerry Peterson, 21240 Fondant. We just, as Millen just explained, everybody along this road has gone through this process because, you know, all the lots are tiny. Everybody's had to do the setback issues. When I just built a nice new house there, the one Millen referenced, and we were very concerned about adhering to the lakeside setback. We thought that was the most important thing, and we got a variance for the roadside, and I think these guys are in the same boat. You know, nobody wants to mess with the lakeside. There's plenty of room for them to park. The numbers are a little deceiving there because of where the road is laid out along the roadway, and you probably all know that because, you know, the road doesn't go down the middle of the roadway. And so anyway, I think we all support them. And we know that there's not this issue about parking. It's just, and backing out, and there's just not that many. Probably, you know, the Amazon people are the worst people there. So that's enough.
Thank you all.
My name is Mike Conway. I'm from 21211 Fondant. And so I'm right across the street from Mike and Andrea. I'm here just because everybody else got up. And I would feel bad if I didn't, but I obviously support the request. Thank you.
Y'all are gonna have a heck of a party.
We do that all the time.
All right, final call. All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:26, I believe that it is. Planning commissioners, is there any discussion on this topic?
Did you want to look at those pictures before we move on?
Yeah.
Yep, they're up
Yeah.
now.
So could we just review the photos?
Sure. Not all of them are going to be extremely helpful in terms of understanding what's going on within the structure, but a few of them might help you.
Okay.
So I'll just kind of scroll through them. There's about 20 or so.
I'd be interested in 17 when we get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not that, I guess not. Is the entry, there we go, right there, 19, I apologize.
So is that the stairway that's going downstairs that is in the material referenced as hazardous?
Yes, please.
Yes, so that's the stairway that goes directly downstairs. The door closest to the picture being taken, that's the door to the master bedroom. And then the door that's right next to the front door is the door to the master/main level bathroom. So again, the only way to get to this, which is the second floor, is a small little nook that's between the master bedroom and that master bathroom.
Okay, could we back up to the last photo? So that stairway that's going to the lower level, why do you believe that's a hazard?
Being right next to the doorway, and you can see the entryway is like just a few feet across. It's
Is that a 3 or 4 foot hallway?
3 foot wide with a 3 and 1 year old putting shoes on.
Is that a railing on the stairway going down?
Yes, there is a
And are
railing.
those steps meeting code? Are they like 8 in terms of width? Are they 8 inches?
Yeah,
and
they meet
the
code.
rise, so they're built to code? Okay, and then could you point out where the stairway is going to the upper level? That, again,
Yeah, I
is a
think if
concern
you-
with the master bedroom?
If
Is
you
there a photo of that?
backtrack to so that's the master bedroom.
Yes.
Where the photo is being taken from, where that person is standing, is a doorway that leads to like a 3 foot by 3 foot little mini hallway, I would call it, which is
Right.
basically the base of the stairs.
So currently we have a 1 and 3 year old, and the
Sure.
plans, hopefully with this being approved, is they won't have to come through their parents' bedroom to go to their bedrooms in the future. So that's the biggest, yeah.
Okay. And so the stairway going, just for my clarification, I'm just trying to get a grasp of this because it's hard to picture, that's why I wish we had floor plans. The stairway going upstairs is not hazardous, it's just inconvenient because it's in the master bedroom and people have to go through the bedroom to get upstairs.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
You mean the entry?
I mean the entry, yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Correct.
On the other hand, it takes care of curfew issues when they're teenagers.
We did think about that, yeah.
What's that?
Sorry.
That was the biggest one right there.
Thank you, that's all I needed to see. If
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Planning commissioners, is there any discussion on this?
It looks like there is a bedroom with some beds in the basement there. I'm still looking through some of these photos here. I mean, the biggest reason for this variance is just because of what I'm understanding is an expanded family, if that's my understanding of that correctly. That's the primary
believe so.
reason.
It appears there's a basement under the whole main floor,
Yeah.
and it's a walkout.
which I understand is going to be also expanded. Planning Commissioners discussion? Franny, what would happen if the pavers that are toward the lake were taken so that it is no longer an impervious surface?
I believe on here it shows that the patio pavers are 128 square feet. So if they took those out, they could reduce their impervious surface by 128 square feet.
That's only like 1% or 2%.
2%.
Pretty trivial. Yeah.
Okay, and the concrete surfaces are the driveway, correct?
Correct, yep.
And does the city have any recommended parking surfaces that could reduce the imperviousness of a parking area?
We did consider areas that could be reduced in impervious surface, but due to the smaller, I guess you could call it, existing driveway, we considered reducing the concrete driveway, but it didn't seem the most feasible for a growing family.
I would just add that in terms of parking surfacing requirements, the code does require a hard surface. That would be asphalt or concrete in this particular zoning district. And so both of those surfaces that are actually required by code for parking areas are impervious. Just a consideration.
May I ask another impervious question? The impervious surface thing, is the reason we have this for infiltration of water to the aquifer, or is it for erosion concerns?
So I would say that the impervious surface requirement is actually found within the city's shoreland overlay district. The shoreland overlay is a district that is actually required by the state's DNR, that every municipality in the state of Minnesota that has a public water body has to adopt a shoreland overlay. Shoreline overlays are buffers about 1,000 feet from public water bodies. Within that buffer, you are required to limit your impervious surface as just one particular regulation to help basically permeate water down into the ground, but also to improve the water quality of our public waters. In addition, the shoreline overlay limits the amount of alterations that you can do to shoreline because, as we know, when you develop shoreline, it doesn't usually go back the other way.
So it sounds like it's a runoff issue. You don't want oils and things coming off of vehicles running into the lake. You know, the dirt and stuff would go through the ground and be filtered.
The impervious surface requirement kind of tackles a number of particular different issues,
Okay.
Water quality being one of them. By limiting hard surface, you're also sort of limiting the overall development on or near our public water.
The other thing is the surfaces near a water body, the concentration time of water getting to there is very fast, and so
Right.
it limits the amount of up and
okay.
down
Sure.
that you have on the surface, so that you're not getting that. So there's a quantity, there's a quality, and there's a reduction.
Okay.
These are, quite frankly, the variances that I can remember that we have granted to make things more non-conforming and less pervious surface. My concern is, just as folks have stated, when one is granted, well then, of course, the next one should be granted, and the next one, and the next one. But I do understand the challenges that are presented here. So what I'm looking for is a motion from the Planning Commission, please.
Chair? I'm sorry.
Did you have a question, or
I was just going to make a motion to,
I'll
but,
let you make it? and I'll
okay, I will. I've got to go back now to find where, I want to make sure I state it exactly as I should. Okay, move to approve the applicant's request for a variance of 18.2 feet to the front yard setback for a total front yard setback of 11.8 feet with conditions 1 through 3 identified by staff.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I guess I'm still having difficulty. I understand the whole situation, you know, and wanting to improve the property, to, you know, expand the property. I'm having difficulty discerning how this is a practical difficulty versus an inconvenience. I think the primary reason I'm seeing is just the inconvenience of the stairwell more than anything else. Especially with lake property, I live on the lake as well, and oh my gosh, there's just nuances and different things about lake property that you just can't find anywhere else. There are things going every which way, things have been changed over the years. I don't really see an argument to the entryway area. I mean, it looks to be fine to me. I guess when it comes down to it, it's tough, but I'm having a tough time to approve this.
Is there any other discussion?
Well, I understand what my fellow commissioner is saying. And I too live on the lake, and I'm on a narrow road with very minimal traffic and a lot of these concerns as well. I have to say that having all your neighbors here to talk about the considerations, I'm not seeing the safety issue, I'm just not. But I am seeing the value that is added by people who want to stay in this community, and the residents that are around there want them to stay too. So that's what I'm going to say.
And I very much echo what my fellow commissioner says. I think that's a really important thing, that everybody's here. Every lot that is past their property that would be adversely affected perhaps by this is here and is in favor of it. I think that carries a lot of weight with me in the community.
Yeah, I think the hard thing is, it's not so much just what your neighbors and you guys would like to see. It's, I don't see any comments from the fire chief. I don't see any comments from the police in here. It's getting emergency vehicles in and out when there's an emergency is one thing. Getting snow plows in and out when there's a snowstorm. Getting, who said it before? Amazon trucks in and out when there's an Amazon delivery. That's the biggest challenge with this road, and we know it because we've seen a number of you here before come before us. And I don't know if you guys, and I can't remember if we approved yours down this close to the street. There was one that accidentally got approved closer to the street that shouldn't have been built.
It was never approved.
It was never approved, but this close to the street is pretty rare. And, you're never gonna be able to build a garage on this property. So you're gonna be parking outside the rest of your life on this property, no matter what we do.
That's why they need more storage. And their family is growing.
The snow spot on the other side of the road too, we talked about that in our variance.
Right,
And emergency vehicles and all that, so I mean.
We get it, we understand, and we're just saying, this is a really tough thing for us, because it isn't just because we approved one and we approved a second one, we gotta approve them all. That's the hard part. And we just want you to know that. This is a difficult thing, because then the next group comes in and says the same thing. Well, you approved mine, you approved mine, you approved mine, now you should approve mine. And pretty soon it's 40% impervious, and pretty soon it's 5 feet from the road. And that's the challenge we have with these variance requests, because you're already non-conforming.
I think you have to look at, they can park cars, they're not asking for 5 feet from the road, like it's still, the road's still functional.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mind the engagement, but we're really not supposed to have the engagement. 11 feet, I noticed in one of the photos, there's a big pickup truck in the driveway. I don't know if that's a full-size cab and a 6-foot box, but those things are 20-some feet long, 19 feet long. So if you're down to 11 feet from what's considered the roadway, your truck in the driveway is gonna be out in the roadway. And I know that the road goes further than that, but on your property, you wouldn't be on your property any longer.
The driveway itself is not changing.
So the far right side of the driveway, that's where the shed and stuff is.
So you're not improving the whole width of the house?
Correct. Just to the left of the
I see, so, all right.
Okay.
Anyways, those are just comments, sorry. We have a motion.
I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I said aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Chair is going to abstain. Motion passes.
Good luck with your project.
We still have the second issue that's got to be.
Okay.
Oh, we have
that's
one more
true.
motion.
Thank you.
We still have the second
Motion.
motion. Don't get too excited
You've
yet.
got, you've got two challenges for us, all right? We got to deal with each of them individuality.
I will make a motion on the second one as well. Move to approve the applicant's request of a variance of 12.1% above the impervious surface maximum for a total impervious surface area of 37.1% with conditions 1 through 3 identified by staff.
Second.
Is there any discussion on this particular motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. Motion passes. Now you may. And staff, I'm going to let folks clear the room so that we can be ready for the next item on our agenda. And just to introduce it, item number 8 is the City of Forest Lakes request for conditional use permit at 6195 210th Street North. It will be water treatment plant number 4. Is this one yours also?
It is, yes, thank you. Zoning staff was made aware of the need for a conditional use permit after a building permit was pulled for water treatment plant number 4. The site is located at 6195 210th Street North in the industrial zoned district. The City of Forest Lake is working with Bolton & Mank and municipal builders on constructing the Forest Lake Water Treatment Plant number 4. The site is located on city-owned property south of the high school, to give you some context. The population served in municipal drinking water is expected to grow over 50% by the year 2040. The new plant is being constructed to help meet Forest Lake's growing water demand. In my staff report, I've detailed a few of the treatment technologies at the existing facilities, and those are detailed. Construction for water treatment plant number 4 is already underway. The project is seeking a retroactive conditional use permit approval for water treatment plant number 4. The industrial district classifies essential services, governmental buildings and storage, and utility substations as a conditional use. Water treatment plant number 4 is a conditional use in the industrial district. The proposed setback, lot size, and building placement requirements are met. The facade materials meet design requirements. This project is creating an improved surface that will contain adequate space to accommodate the required number of parking spaces under city code. Governmental signage is exempt from sign regulations. The site plan for water treatment plant number 4 does not detail a trash enclosure. If a trash enclosure is built, it will be constructed of the same materials consistent with the principal building and screened from view as practical. Exterior lighting for the site is proposed to ensure safety of city staff and contractors on the site. There's 1 exterior pole-mounted LED light and 5 wall-mounted LED lights over various door entries. The proposed light fixtures are downcast and are not anticipated to impact surrounding properties. The applicant is proposing an 8-foot chain link fence along the perimeter of the facility. The current proposed landscaping does not fully meet requirements of the City of Forest Lakes Design Requirements Manual because the site abuts a residential district. an updated landscaping plan that complies with the screening requirements detailed in section 153.330 of the City of Forest Lake zoning code shall be a condition of approval. A neighborhood meeting is required for a conditional use permit, and one was held on June 7th. At the meeting, there was a total of 7 attendees. The attendees expressed concerns about construction hours of operation, noise, wetland impacts, and screening. Project manager Jake Pickelman was there to address some of those concerns. The hours of construction are limited from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays, and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturdays, and no work will be done on Sundays. The noise of the plant will not exceed a low hum once fully finished. You can compare it to the existing water treatment plants. This project has also obtained a Rice Creek watershed permit, so that addresses the wetland impact concerns. Moving to the findings of fact, the new facility will increase the city's carrying capacity for residents to ensure a safe and sanitary utility system. Water treatment plant number 4 may marginally increase traffic during the construction period of the project. But after that, the site appears to have adequate parking for the proposed use, as the facility is not open to the public. Water treatment plant number 4 is a critical part of the city's public utility system, which will help meet Forest Lake's growing demand for water. Water treatment plant number 4 is not anticipated to negatively impact surrounding property values or views more than the current state of the property. Water treatment plant number 4 is consistent with the policies of the comprehensive plan for land use and future land use. If granted a conditional use permit, water treatment plant number 4 will conform with applicable zoning requirements. Water treatment plant number 4 does not require a market feasibility study. The effects of water treatment plant number 4 will not be dissimilar from other water treatment plants within the city of Forest Lake. A water treatment plant is classified as a conditional use in the industrial zoned district. Moving to staff recommendation. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit request to allow water treatment plant number 4 at 6195 210th Street North, subject to the following conditions. The landscaping plan will be updated to comply with screening requirements detailed in section 153.330 of the City of Forest Lake's zoning code, and the conditional use permit shall be recorded with Washington County. I would be happy to answer questions as best I can at this time.
I'm going to have a couple questions first, and then I'm going to open up the rest of the Planning Commission. When did construction start on this, please?
Great question.
We're on the order of a couple weeks.
Yeah, I believe that the construction had started the week that we did the neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
So,
Can I ask why this is a retroactive request for a conditional use permit?
Yes, fair question. Zoning staff wasn't made aware of the development until we received a building permit. And that time we realized that this site required a conditional use permit.
Yeah, if I might add on to that, one of the unique parts of this particular project is there's water treatment plants elsewhere in the city that are located in other zoning districts. For whatever reason, the industrial zoning district requires a CUP for these projects. So that was not an anticipation of the requirements for the project going into it. However, it was identified by the planning department when the building permit was under review.
We went through this on another city build. and I would have hoped. I would have hoped that the city would set a better example for its residents by learning from our past. Are there any questions from the rest of the Planning Commission for staff, please?
No, I had the same question about retroactivity.
Okay. This is a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing for the retroactive conditional use permit for water treatment plant number 4 at 6195 210th Street North. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak at the public hearing? If so, come up to the podium. Give us your name and address, please. Karen, is there anybody online that might be interested in this particular topic?
I still have Scotty Talamentes. So if you are interested in commenting, please unmute yourself. You can comment at this time for this public hearing. None.
One more time, is there anybody in the audience who is interested in speaking on the water treatment plant number 4 retroactive conditional use permit? Seeing no one and hearing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing at 8.
7:50.
Yeah,
7:52.
52, I think.
7:52.
7:52. Planning commissioners. Discussion, comments, thoughts, concerns?
What are our options? I mean, to me, this, I don't see options other than the city needs this plant, and it should have been done. Granted, everything should have been done ahead of time. I'm just curious, if we reject this, then what?
Construction will stop.
Which will cost taxpayers more money. Had this been done the right way, would this have been approved? That's actually,
That is entirely
That's
up
a
to
good
y'all.
question.
right. So I'm gonna make a recommendation that we approve the conditional use permit to allow the water treatment plant number 4 at 6195 210th Street North, subject to the following conditions 1 and 2, as stated in the staff report.
Second.
And Frank, just to make sure, there will be sufficient landscaping screening.
Correct.
All
Yep.
right, that will be added to the construction.
They're aware that this condition needs to be met and a landscaping plan that complies with that section needs to be submitted. Correct.
And the landscaping can't be done a couple years later.
Correct.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We need to do better as a city. Okay, item number 9, Spikes and Hools Feed Mill, the site plan review. Who's got this one, please?
That one would be me. Thank you.
You're
Chair.
on, sir.
Thank you, Chair. What's going to pop up on your screen here is just a overall visual overview of this particular site. What we have here is a site plan review application for a property formerly known as the Hool Feed Mill, and now known as the Spike and Hool's Feed Mill and Retail Operation. The property owner here is Gertens. The applicant for this is their contractor, Metro Building Companies. We're looking at a site that consists of 9 commonly owned unaddressed parcels. They are addressed collectively as 55 2nd Street. As a little bit of background really quickly, the site's probably something that everyone knows a little bit about. The feed mill structure was actually built in 1916, according to the records that I have been able to review, by E.J. Hool. It was later incorporated with additional structures, and various additions were added on, as you can tell from this overview over the years. And so we have now the current conditions, which you can see an image of on the screen. This property was acquired by Gertens in the summer of 2020. Since that time, the Gertens team has been working on plans to basically restore the structure and redevelop this site. They have been working and meeting with city staff as well to receive comments throughout their plan development. So specifically, I want to be really clear, what we're looking at here is just phase one of what will be a larger redevelopment. That is a really important fact here. We are not reviewing an overall development plan. We are simply reviewing a site plan request for the first phase of this project, which only includes restoration of the Hoole mill structure. So what you can see on the screen here is a survey of the property with the yellow highlighting those areas that are included in phase one. One of the things that did occur here was a demolition of a portion of this old structure it's known as the Pickle Warehouse. That's what we've kind of been calling it, so that's what you saw in the staff report. That portion of this existing structure was demolished because of structural concerns primarily. They couldn't reuse it. It was also the plan that they would align it a little bit better with the existing structure. So there are some building plans that were included with the staff report. You can kind of see how they've proposed to realign that particular part of this building. So really quickly, this property is in the city's MU1 district. That's the downtown mixed-use district. In this district, the purpose is to establish a strong identity for downtown Forest Lake and provide for high-density compact mixed-use development. The intent of the city is to preserve and enhance the downtown appearance. It goes on after that. So specifically with this site plan review, we're looking at the zoning. This use is retail. It's a feed retail operation. They're proposing to continue the sale of feed. They're also planning in the future to incorporate more garden center related products that Gertens is known for. Both of those uses are considered to be permitted by right in this zoning district as retail. So in terms of setbacks, the city's MU1 district actually does not have minimum lot size or like formally established setbacks. There are design review requirements, which we will start talking about here now. So as you might guess, this is one of the most historic properties in Forest Lake, and so this design review is definitely unique. There are elements of this building that, where they propose today, would not be approved. That includes much of what you see on the existing and the old building. So the galvanized tin on the sides, a lot of the wood on the structure, those types of building materials are no longer supported by the design requirements manual or in the code, but they are historic and they are on the site and considered to be non-conforming generally. So I've provided a few different quotes or sections rather from our city code regarding non-conforming uses and structures. One specific one is that when an existing building is expanded over a certain percent, that does require that buildings be brought into conformance with the requirements. That is not the plan here. They are simply restoring the existing structure. In terms of the building's frontage, they're not proposing to change the frontage along any public streets at all, really. They're just going to rebuild this Pickle Warehouse part of the building back to its original extent, maybe just a little bit moved over to align with the rest of the structure. The building height is not going to change here. A note on the roof line, though, that will be adjusted slightly, and I can show you here. If you look at the existing conditions or the old conditions before the demolition, you can see, oops, I zoomed way out here. Let me zoom back in. You can kind of see some of the roof line here. The proposal here, zoom out, is basically to keep that pretty consistent. They're simply going to align the different sections of this building. So we've talked about the building materials used here. I would say that they're sort of being rebalanced. So there are parts of the old building that were mostly all wood, parts that are mostly all tin, and they're kind of rebalancing those and putting them back on the structure in a more consistent form. The other thing to note here is that in terms of a visual interest in the downtown, this building is definitely, again, it's unique. It provides a variety of style, material, color, and scale. But many of these things, again, wouldn't be permitted now, but they do provide that distinct component of downtown. So that's about what I have for you on design review. In terms of the site design, there are no changes proposed in this particular phase with respect to screening. Again, the same with the lighting plan. If any lighting were proposed for the structure, we would need to review that against the city's requirements. Again, landscaping, they're not proposing to do any changes to the exterior of this site and therefore not proposing any changes to landscaping. Parking is one thing that we did want to call out here. It doesn't appear that this site has ever been reviewed for parking. Based on our review for this particular use, it would require about 30 stalls. At present, this site, taken as a whole, does appear to be able to accommodate that amount of parking, even with the seasonal sales which take place on this site, as they do have a permit for that. And then in terms of signage, you can see that some signage was shown here in the images that were supplied in the staff report. We have not received enough information to review the signage at this time. However, we will be ensuring that the signage, when it is installed in the building, does meet the city code requirements. Eventually, when we receive applications for a second phase, we would expect an overall sign plan to be supplied to allow us to review the signs across the entire site for conformance. So you did receive some comments from the city engineer, public works, fire chief in the staff report. The city engineer had a nice kind of list of bullet points to be considering. We have attempted to accommodate these comments that we've received from staff in the recommendations of approval, and I'll go through those. The applicant does report that they have received a conditional approval from Rice Creek Watershed. Any required permits would be required before a building permit is to be issued. The applicant has received approval from Washington County regarding access for their project. I would just note that, again, any required reviews or permits from Washington County will need to be received from the applicant before a building permit is issued. So that would also include any work in the right-of-way of Washington County, perhaps if they need to get out onto Broadway there. So site plan considerations for approval are provided to you in the packet here. Staff believe that this phase 1 specifically does appear to meet the criteria for consideration. Staff do support approval. An example motion is provided in the packet for you, along with 7 conditions of approval. I'll just walk through a couple of them because I think they're important. One of them is if there's any public safety issues that are as determined by the city, generated due to any altered traffic or circulation on this site, that will need to be mitigated by the applicant in a manner that is suitable to the city. The second one that I wanted to discuss was that the applicant does need to furnish a temporary seasonal sales plan that details how parking and circulation can kind of meet the public safety concerns when temporary seasonal sales are occurring. So those are the 2 that I was wanting to bring to your attention. The rest of them are somewhat more routine, but I am happy to talk about them if you have questions. So with that, I would note that a representative of Gertens and of Metro Building Companies is here, so if you have any questions for the applicant, they should be able to address those as well.
First, are there any questions from staff? For staff?
Yeah. There has been, I think, a food truck in this parking lot for a while. And I don't know if that is something that needed a permit and it's there, or it would now become null and void because of this new plan. So how would that food truck fit into this, and even with the parking?
Yeah, so we were made aware of the food truck through the review of this, and we have not reviewed for conformance with code at this time, but we will be looking at that moving forward as to a specific question about the site.
Okay.
My question is regarding the parking, and I know we're only looking at phase one of this project, but you know, it's an awfully big site. And how do you determine parking for a commercial site like this, so to speak?
Yep.
You know, if you look at Gerton's obviously down south,
Yeah.
you know, if they try to expand, and I don't know what their plans are yet, I'm sure we'll see them, but if they're planning on expanding this entire area into something like that, there's no parking. I mean, they don't have enough parking down there. So is there a certain requirement for parking when you have a project like this where you're gonna have eventually probably more shrubbery, probably more greenery, stuff like that people are gonna come in and get? Is there any requirement for that, other
Yeah.
than the 30 you just said?
So, in terms of how we generated the parking demand for this particular project, we're looking at the floor area of the different uses that are occurring in the building. And so we took a look at what is the proposed use. Majority of the interior of this building is retail. And so there's a specific code requirement for retail. And then there's also some cold storage on the south part of the building. And that we reviewed for those requirements in code. And together those were 30 stalls, or 30 parking spaces. And so then we took a look at how many parcels does Gerton's own in this area, commonly own, and what, we consider those to be the site. And so we then looked at the site overall for areas that we know exist that would allow parking, and we looked at the city code dimensions that are required for parking stalls and drive lanes, and using those measurements, we kind of approximated several different pockets where parking can take place on the site. Temporary seasonal sales are permitted sort of for all uses, separately outside of the kind of the normal zoning review.
So they wouldn't require more parking for the temporary seasonal sales? For example, if they've got a parking lot full of, let's just say, shrubberies and trees and plants, you wouldn't require more parking for that?
So yeah, that's one of the reasons as a condition of approval, we are requiring that they submit a plan that satisfies the city in terms of circulation and safety. Yeah, because that was one of the concerns that has been kind of communicated from our engineering and public works staff, is, you know, we do know that we have seasonal sales here, and we want to make sure that these sales take place in a manner that is kind of controlled.
And then, so, sorry, I just have two more. Then would those parking spots, and I'm sorry I'm harping on this, would they have to be actually painted and indicated where they are, or do you just pull in and park wherever you want?
So the site is currently, it's gravel, right? So you're gonna have a hard time painting gravel.
Well,
But you can mark gravel in some cases, and but what we'd be looking for on a plan is show us where you're going to accommodate the anticipated demand
okay,
and how you're gonna manage the circulation.
okay, perfect. And then my last question, it has to do with the building that was tore down, and I see on here they want to rebuild.
Yep.
When they rebuild that, now does that building have to be constructed according to current building standards and setbacks and requirements? Or are they gonna let them just put it right back where it was, which is already on the middle of the highway almost?
So that's kind of a unique question, right? Because if they would have applied for a building permit and a demolition permit at the same time, they could have simply applied to rebuild the same portion of the building. However, if you demolish and then you build back later, sometimes this may be a different question. So in this case, the building isn't really going anywhere. It's kind of still the same building. They're just kind of building back to the same footprint. So staff are interpreting that they're not expanding over 50% of the building, and therefore they can kind of have that original part of their
Is that
building.
because they left the foundation even though they took out the entire building, that they can do that?
We have allowed that in the past when the foundation was still existing.
That's
and
what I'm
it
asking.
stayed on we have allowed that in the past.
Yeah, I think that there is a part of the foundation still there, But, you know, staff are basically interpreting based on the non-conforming ordinance that they would be able to build that particular part of their building back.
Joseph, thank you.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at the map on page 151, there's like a rectangle area, but there's like a non-yellowed part in the rectangle. It's not this picture, it's the one where you can see like the couple of blocks together, where the five or six parcels are.
The 280.
What's that? Yeah, that one. So 280 and the one next to it, is that owned by someone else because it's not yellow on my page 151?
280 is owned by the city.
280 is owned by the city, okay.
And the other parcel is owned by the applicant.
The other one is owned by the applicant. So then, is it part of the plan to pick up that little last chunk if they need it? Or is the city planning on keeping it? I mean, because
Yeah.
to me, that's where they're gonna be picking up maybe some of this parking that they might need later.
Discussion.
It's under discussion.
Be a good parking ramp.
For clown cars.
Tall, skinny, elevator, probably.
What's one of the little car elevator thingies? Sorry. Are there any other comments from planning commission? Justin?
I have a question for
Okay.
staff. So this is my first site plan review that has come before me. And as an engineer, I think site plan review, we're reviewing things like the site plan, which we're talking about parking and a plan view of how things will be laid out. But I see words in here like architectural details. Are we approving architectural details in this?
On site plans, we usually give the applicant a sense of what it is that the city is expecting in terms of the building, the facade, and some of the materials.
So I assume these kind of things have been discussed in previous meetings then?
Not on this property. But for other site plan reviews, we have done that. For instance, we've done a couple of site plan reviews for developments.
Okay.
And we've seen the kind of houses that the developer is planning, and that was part of our site plan review.
Okay, so Nathan, I think you maybe know what I'm driving at?
Yeah,
or-
so site plan review entails kind of an overview of the site, looking at kind of where things are in relation to property boundaries, things like that, landscaping. But one of the things we also do is, to your point, a design review. And so we actually look at the facades of the structure and the aesthetic impacts that it may have on surrounding properties. The city has both design performance standards for the site, and it also has an adopted design standards manual that actually does regulate some of the building materials that are permitted on facades. It has various criteria that applicants need to meet, and those are dependent upon which zoning district that you're in. So if you're in this downtown mixed-use district, you're gonna have slightly different design requirements than you would if you were in the industrial.
So if you go back a few pictures to say where they show the elevations of what the new structure will look like picture 160, yeah, let's go look at that one. So this is what the future building is gonna look like, correct?
That's correct. This is provided by the applicant.
And we're being asked our opinion of this as well, or this has already gone through, I know it's historically very significant to the city, I'm just curious.
There
what-
hasn't been any review of this applicant's desires for the future of the property. This is the first time
Okay.
that this planning commission is looking at their vision for the site.
Okay.
But it has been put into two chunks. So we're looking at phase one. And
Right.
phase two will come in the future.
Okay, but this is phase one, and we're being asked to approve this is part of phase one.
That's correct.
Is to me, a Cheffin Tower, is that included in phase two, or is that part of this phase one?
Any part of this original structure, this Hool mill structure, which you can kind of see in the highlighted area on this survey here, that is all part of this first phase. So they're restoring that entire mill structure. That's what's being proposed here in phase one.
Okay,
The exist,
and
all
the
existing
materials, the tin, as you had mentioned before, would not meet current standards.
Yeah, so the design standards manual that I referenced has actually specific materials that it has referenced as appropriate in various districts. And so we do take a look at what materials are being proposed. There are ratios that are allowed between primary materials and accent materials. So there are some actual concrete standards, you might say, for design. And so we review, as staff, we provide an assessment of whether these projects meet those criteria or whether they don't. And then,
But these do not, if I understood you right, that the amount of the tin or whatever exceeds what would normally be.
yes,
So
that is correct. The building, if it were proposed today, would not meet the standards. However, the city and state have non-conforming ordinances which allow for continuance of non-conformity, so grandfathering in.
So I guess,
Like the variance we had earlier tonight, they were a non-conforming property. And even if we had said, no, you can't have your additional variances, we do have ordinances and state laws that say you can continue a non-conformance.
right. I understand that.
Yeah.
The architectural facade that's on the existing building would not be allowed. It would be a non-conforming architectural facade, probably because it's not architecturally appealing, right? That's why it would not be accepted. I'm just curious why we would consider this appearance or this look of this building. Am I outside my bounds? Okay.
Absolutely not.
I just, personally, I'm a structural engineer, and there's no architect I've ever agreed with ever, but I'm looking at this building. This is a very high-profile part of our community, and right down there by the waterfront and things going on. Do you really want a tin building like that? Gerton's has some beautiful buildings, some beautiful, they've got a number of facilities around, but I don't know. I look at that and I think we can have something look better for the community there than that particular look. So that's just my thought.
Okay. Justin, any comments?
No, not really. I do like the look of it, but it is obviously a historic property. It's very iconic. I would say something more iconic than the whole site itself is the sign with the animals telling people to buy Wolf Feed. I do like that. I hope that sign comes back to us later. Is really nice. So, yeah.
I think one of the things that folks have talked about when they have been evaluating our new proposed downtown plan is that Forest Lake has lost its history. That, we tore down the Tin Man, we tore down a lot of the other historic buildings that made Forest Lake Forest Lake. It is my hope that Hools is going to do a refresh of the tin and fix the paint job on that they're not going to hold that exactly as it is. But I think that there was a previous opportunity that was looked at for redevelopment of that property into a hotel and convention center. And the hue and cry from many in the community was, how can we're losing this, historic piece of Forest Lake. That's the challenge with aesthetics. I think that there are very few, two people are not going to have the exact same opinion on anything. Yes, sir.
Nathan, I just don't see, so maybe we don't need it at this point, but I see no landscaping type layouts
That's
around
correct.
the building. I see no lighting type
Yeah,
layouts
so,
around the building.
yeah, on like a new development with a site plan review on a completely vacant site where we come in with a new project, we're going to be requiring all of the plans that you've referenced, the lighting, the landscaping, the grading, utilities. We're gonna be reviewing all of those various plans. With this particular site, what they're looking to do simply in phase one is to restore the building. They're just looking to basically fix parts of the building that have been in disrepair and are structurally compromised, and to restore that pickle room building, which they did have to remove based on safety concerns. So that's really all that's being proposed here. They're not proposing any other exterior requirements or other exterior improvements other than some of the restoration of that facade. So any site development would require all of the plans which you've mentioned, and we've been very clearly communicating that in phase 2, we will be requiring a comprehensive set of plans for review.
So are we going to make a decision as to whether we're okay with this change? Is that what you're asking us to do?
So what the planning commission is asked to determine tonight is whether to approve this phase 1.
Okay, so then my question is, if we approve phase 1, but yet we want maybe some landscaping on the east side of these buildings so that it maybe makes it look nicer. If they want fencing, is this something that if we just go ahead and say, yeah, we're good with phase 1, they would never have to do any of that stuff if they did nothing else?
It's a tricky situation because of the non-conforming nature of the site and the fact that they're simply proposing to fix up the building instead of actually do site improvements. And so if they were proposing to do improvements outside of the building, then the ability to require those types of improvements would be available to the city. And so that's why this project did get split out into those 2 phases, because they're simply seeking to kind of get a head start on the restoration part of this project before they come in with a second phase application.
Okay.
And I would encourage you, their representatives are here and probably eager to share their plans with you.
Yeah, we'd love to see them.
So on phase 2, I would assume that will include the parking lots and other redevelopments, and as part of those parking lots, we can look at the entire site and ask for the enhanced
Right.
landscaping. Would
Site
that-
circulation,
would that be
lighting
staff's
plan,
opinion?
landscaping, signage, all of that is expected to be reviewed in phase 2. That's correct.
And to be brought to city code and city standards.
Are there any other questions from the planning commission of staff? Would the representatives of the applicants like to talk to us at all? You've heard our discussion, your thoughts?
Well,
And I'm sorry, sir, would it be okay for you to please?
oh yeah. Just don't raise it. Not fast. Good evening, Madam Chair and Council. I'm Joe Lyons with Metro Building Companies, and I've been working with Gertens now for about 8 years, I guess. We did a similar project up in Elk River that was voted the best rebuilt facility in the city the year it was finished. Anyway, a lot of the questions you're asking this evening about phase 2, we've worked hand in hand with Nathan and the structural engineers and everybody else. So that stuff is sitting, waiting to move forward. We just wanted to get phase 1 up and running so that we could start generating a little revenue after a couple of years here. And then it takes some planning, thinking forward how they want to lay their yard out. And they want to put up a greenhouse down the road or whatever we can work with the city on to improve that site as much as possible. What we're looking at on the inside of the building is, I've been spending Gino's money pretty handily here. He allowed me to salvage the old lumber that was in the building, which is a real task. But I've got some timbers laying out there that are 118 years old that we plan to reuse. Some of the whole signs we took down piece by piece so we can reuse them if it fits into the signage program. So we've been taking everything apart, hoping to reuse as much as possible. If we can't use it structurally, we'll use it aesthetically. So we're basically ready to go. The pickle room was on the verge of falling down. It was in tough shape. So we thought we better take it down before somebody got hurt there. There's another little section of the building that's coming down as well. Just wasn't built to the best standard. Our structural engineer and all the plans have all been approved for a long time. And so we're ready to start on the inside, just kind of putting it together again and making it a showplace. Right, Gino? Yep, see, you just gave me more money. But any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Commissioners?
Well, we said it before, I think it's nice to see that this is being, reused, and it's keeping a lot of the old parts of it where possible, because if it was a complete kind of redo and you're trying to make it look the same, it really isn't the same. So the fact that a lot of that is still there is good. The original door is, I noticed a note on there trying to be salvaged. So I think that's a good thing.
We're going to hide, in fact, we're gonna hide the new doors, the automatics. So in the evening, when they're done for the day, they just push the old barn door shut. You don't see the new automatics, it's just kind of the old elevator. So we're gonna try to recycle as much of that as we can, and hopefully it'll be pleasing to everybody.
Any other questions of commissioners? Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do I have a motion first with respect to the site plan?
I'll move to approve the site plan review request for Phase 1 of the Spikes and Hools feed mill improvement projects with conditions 1 to 7 suggested by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion, please? Is there any discussion about this? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion does carry. Welcome, Gertens, welcome to the city, and we're looking forward to this. This particular property does have a very strong place in the hearts of those that have been in and around Forest Lake for a period of time. And so we appreciate all attention to historic detail that you can provide. And we're looking forward to seeing Phase 2.
Thank you. And now that the vote's completed, I would just comment, just for your own interest, or just so you know where our heart is on this. We didn't buy the site because we wanted to tear it down, and we were attracted to the site because of what it was, and we had a vision for what it could be restored. We bought it because it was a grand old landmark. We have two other facilities like this, one in Elk River right on Highway 10. I encourage anybody, if you get a chance to go into the drive-through there and shop the store. It's a wonderful old feed mill that is a fabulous place to go shop. We restored a functioning feed mill in which we make our feed in Delano. And if you go down to 511 Railroad Drive in Delano, you'll see an old feed mill that we took out of the mothballs and put into an active manufacturing facility, and while preserving, the grandeur of its original design and use. You had mentioned the Amber Grove Heights site. If you've been down there, you've seen two old barns that, when we expanded there, instead of that were in the way, we didn't tear them down. We picked them up and moved them out to the nursery where we could use them to help people do transactions out in the nursery lot, and where you go buy patio furniture. Those were barns that were built in 1921 from used lumber down at the South St. Paul Stockyards. And so that is our approach to this. Commission chair or member on the old tin. I think if we were to change the tin, I'd get chased out of town.
Probably right.
So and then the last comment is, if you're there in April or May, on a Saturday afternoon, you start wondering, what are all these kids doing around here? And they're all getting their photos for their yearbooks and their prom pictures taken and stuff like that. So when you refer to the how I'm very much connected to what that means for Forest Lake, and we're very excited to be able to restore that building to make it a good, viable place to shop for your horse feed, your chicken feed, your goat feed, your zoo animal feed, or
By mosquito dunks.
your mosquito dunks, or your dog food, and that type of thing. And we also want to bring to Forest Lake the plant nursery aspect of what we do in Invergrove Heights as well.
Thank you.
I do have a quick question. Would you be open to like a site historical marker anywhere in the vicinity of the building?
Oh, certainly, sure.
Okay, I was just curious.
So, we found the original door that was part of it. When we took it down, we locked it away to make sure we wouldn't lose it or someone wouldn't run off with it. And, so we're very sensitive to what the site and the building means to the community, and, that's why we like it. If I was just doing it to make a quick buck, there'd be a quick trip coming soon sign there. That's not what we want to do with the building. We want to restore it and make it a landmark. Well, it's already a landmark. We just want to enhance what it is, and make it a building where you can keep the heat in and the cold out, and let people shop in a way that they might be more accustomed to these types of.
The sign that was discovered on the original boards, is that something that we might see on the inside possibly?
Joe took that down, and we're gonna put that where the drive-through is, by what we would call our future main entrance. And then the one that I like getting my, the cows telling us how they like to buy their feed at pools. That was there, we're putting that back onto the building.
Oh, okay.
And,
I've got that in my basement right now,
yeah, so.
the one that we're seeing right now.
There's one there that, we took a layer of siding off, and we found
We took the tin off.
and then there was an old.
The original one with the little baby chick on there, that was the original one where you took all the way down to the boards, the red boards. Mhm.
And, I did everything except chain myself to the picker room by Joe's crew was dismantling it. I did not want to take that down, but there was, I don't think there was an economical way to keep that building intact. When you walked on it, the floor it would bounce with it.
Sure, yep.
It just wasn't possible, I don't think. And then,
Actually, that room had no real footings. It had timbers underneath it. That's where we saw just a couple of those old 16-foot timbers. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Straight as an arrow yet.
Okay.
So as we progress with construction, I think if anybody wants to poke their head in there and see what it looks like, it's really kind of quite amazing. The old millworks in there. And so we're going to try to keep as much of that exposed and intact, so people when they're shopping, they get a feel for what that building was and enjoy that part.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, we are at the other portion of the agenda. Councilmember Munson? I have no update. Okay. Abby?
No special report.
Patrick?
I have no report.
Frank?
Nothing to add.
Nathan?
Keep eating your Wheaties. We've got like 4 items, I think, on the next agenda, so.
Karen?
Thank you, Commissioner Young. I did send out an email just for educational resource purposes. If you go to the League of Minnesota Cities website, you can access the resources tab, then click on community development, and it'll give you information about land use, housing development, economic development. So I did send the commissioners a link to that, just for your reference. You want to take a look at it, might help answer some questions that you have on just basic information and planning and commission and what your role is, and that's all.
When did that email go out?
I just sent it during the meeting.
Oh, okay.
But-
No wonder I don't have it. Okay, I have it now.
Anything?
Yep.
Nothing.
Nothing for me?
Nothing for me.
I have two things. One, Bolton and Mink does not need to include every page of every plan set in the planning, for the planning commission's review. I do have some clarifier comments, but I'm not going to share them with y'all.
Okay.
That's just my thing, all right? We don't need all those plan sets. And two, Bolton and Mink is intimately familiar with the requirements for conditional uses in the city of Forest Lake. I hold Bolton and Mink and city staff equally responsible for that oversight. We all should have learned better. Okay? So, for future. With that, if there's nothing else before the planning commission, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
That is non-debatable. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.